Welcome back to Level Construction. Now that we've got all of our lights in place, it's time to go ahead and prepare for adding movers. What we need to do first is add 2 new rooms. As a matter of fact, Logan, go ahead and show them where we have 2 door frames leading to a wall.
We have this door frame at the top of one of the catwalks and along the bottom catwalk.
Exactly.
We have a solid wall, and we need somewhere for this wall to go so that we can add doors to it.
Exactly. So we need to go ahead and create these 2 new rooms, and once we've done that, then we'll be ready to move into the world of movers, and we can put doors in here that function.
All right, so let's get started. The first thing that I want to do is to carve out a hole through this wall so that we have an opening to which we can access this room. So I'm going to load up my builder brush and bring up its properties. And I'm also going to scroll out a little bit in the top view so that I can find where my builder brush is currently at. And to begin with, let me drag it over in place here. Let me turn manipulators back on and grab my brush, bring it over, line it up. And let's see, I believe we need to drop, is it Y down to 32? That's right, we'll drop Y down to 32. We'll leave X and Z 256. We'll close out of our builder properties, and we'll take a look at how this is lining up on the door. Let me move this into place so we can carve out here and make sure that we're carving out the correct section for the specific door. I might even switch over to a side view, grab just the door frame and just this last wall, if I can select it, show only these actors so that I can get a much clearer view of what it is I need to do with this brush, because I'm going to need to edit its vertices to get it to line up nicely. So I'm going to jump into geometry mode, make sure that I'm in vertex selection mode, and I'll begin dragging some vertices. The first thing I want to do is make sure that I bring some of the top vertices down so that they're within the frame, so maybe down just a few units. And then I'll grab some of the vertices along the side so that the vertices are inside, just inside this little arcing portion here, just so we don't carve out a section that we can see from the side. So let me adjust these in just a little bit more, something, maybe one more, there we go. And along the sides that should still be just inside the mesh, but we'll see here shortly when we build, or when we carve this mesh out. So let's do the same thing for the top. We'll grab these vertices and we'll drag them in just inside of this curvature. Just inside there.
Now, I could be wrong here, but actually I think you're going to have to pull that down, because look over here. We've got what will end up being wall left behind inside the
Right, I see what you're looking at. Let's see.
So probably the best thing is to grab the 4 vertices at the top, pull them down as far as we can possibly go.
And then move them
and
out.
up one more. Yeah, right there. And then move them, select vertically now. Yep, and move them back out. There we go. And same on the other side. Beautiful. Okay.
And yeah, I see what you're saying. We've got kind of an indentation there. If we cut right through that, then we'd cut through it and end up seeing nothing. And just to even it out, I'm going to grab the vertices on this side.
Okay.
Move them out so we have
perfect.
Nice cut going through all the way through the door, all the way down past the floor piece. And before I make this
you're going to select a material, aren't you?
I'm going to make sure that I have the desired material selection.
Exactly.
And the same as we did before, I'm going to sync to generic browser with the material selected, and there's our base sidewalk 01. Then I can reselect the builder, or I should be able to just do a Control S and subtract out here.
Nice.
If I look really closely, or if I hit W to hide static meshes, you can see that we do in fact have the concrete material applied. If I bring static meshes back, we can take a close look and make sure that this is working out for us. As far as this cut through the wall, make sure we can't see the cut anywhere else. Make sure that it's smooth all through the door. And I think it's looking pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's bring the builder back now, and let's construct a room for this to connect into. So I'm going to bring the builder brush back up. I'm going to set the Z now to 32, and we'll leave X and Y 256. We'll hit build, and move this out just behind the door, make sure it's centered up. And for this, I might even, let me try upping my drag grid all the way to 16. I might have to drop it to 8 for some of these alignments, but I'm going to start at 16. And let me close the geometry editing tools just for the moment. Let's drag this down just so it makes a nice floor piece right below the main brush. So that's looking nice and centered. And let's see, before I add this in, I'm going to do a few things to it. Let me go back into geometry mode. Let me go to polygon selection, grab this one face, open up our geometry modifiers, and go to extrude. And inside of extrude, I'm going to set a length of 128 and hit apply. and then apply 2 more times. So we have 3 segments we've created using the extrude option. I'm going to set this back to edit now, and we'll close out of our geometry modifiers by turning off the selection mode button. And now with this brush, let me go and switch back to vertex editing mode so that I can grab these vertices over here on the side and drag them out somewhat, probably to maybe 32 units in from this major grid line on the side, which has given us a outcropping of about 128 units. So let's see, up on the top, 128 units would put us 2 past the other major grid line, which makes sense. So there we have a nice kind of outcropping with a room style made. And let me go ahead and add this brush in, close out of geometry mode, and move the builder brush out of the way. So there has a very nice floor for us. Let me duplicate this up to the top so that we have a ceiling. So let me take this brush, and let me go to a side view. I'll just alt drag this up to the top, and let me find a good place for this to go. I almost wonder if I should try to put it level with the room out here. Just seeing how this lines up. Really, let me bring all the actors back for a minute, because I want to see this roof brush, and I want to line it up to that roof. And just since I'm out here in perspective, let me drop very quickly to brush wireframe mode so I can select this brush. And then this guy, let me show both of these momentarily, just so I can take my newly created ceiling brush.
And move it on up, yeah.
And that's the design.
There you go.
That's the desired height. Bring everything back, switch back to unlit mode. If we build geometry now, we should have a nice ceiling at the same level as our other ceiling. So let's see. I'm almost kind of tempted just to run these back and connect them in so we have a nice complete walkway. Let me try and do that. It's
Sure call.
I think it might make it, because the brush up here is set to have the ceiling extend all the way across. We may not be able to see this one, but at the same time it might also make it a little bit more, a little bit cleaner. Let me see if I can select this one brush over on the side and drag these both in. Build geometry once again. And actually that wasn't far enough. I wanted to grab all the way into the inside. There we are. Very nice. Alright, now all that's left is to add some walls and close in the rest of the space. So for the first wall, let me grab my builder brush one last time. Let's set the X to 32, the Z to 256. Let's build that, and that'll make a nice brush for our first wall, providing the height's correct. I didn't check the height off against the way we've just now moved it. I'll move it over to the side here, and looking at it, let's see how that's lining up on the doorway. That's just on the outside of the doorway, which is good. So let's see, let's grab a front view. Let's move this brush down, and look at that, lining up very nicely there. So let's add this brush in. Let's move the builder out of the way. Let's make sure that this isn't interfering with our door on the side. And let's see. It's just a little bit on the inside from that side. I'm almost wondering if we grab all these brushes, maybe it was better to have them start right at the edge, giving us the full extent of the mesh, but closing it off enough to where we can't see out into the map. Because that way we get the full doorway on this side. I'll run with that for the time being. It's easy to select and move these rooms around, so I'm just going to leave it be for now. Alright, let's continue walking our way around with these walls now. Let me grab this one wall, and I'll drag duplicate it. And I will switch over to geometry mode now so that I can take some of these vertices and snap them into the side of the brush. And we'll reselect the whole brush, alt duplicate again, and then drag the vertices into place. Then select and duplicate, and then grab the vertices, move those over. And it looks like we'll probably need to take these and move them back, something like that, so we can fit a piece in on the side. So let's see. Before we do that though, I wonder if we could get away with selecting all of these and duplicating. Let's switch over to rotation. Duplicate these around 180 degrees. I'm using the, actually let's see, that. minus 135. Actually, that's part of the way there. And I didn't mean to duplicate.
Yeah.
I'd held the Alt key one time too many. So let's try that again. Let's get out of geometry mode for a second. Let's select these brushes and finish rotating. There's a full 180.
Yeah.
The problem is there's a different size on each of them.
Yeah.
Or is there?
Well,
there we go.
Yeah, there you go. Only thing is the way that you just gotta edit just a few vertices and you'll be done.
Right. I see.
Yep.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That one's now at an odd angle instead of fitting in.
Right.
So yeah, let's just drop some of these vertices
Easy
around.
fix.
So very quickly, let's move these into place. And now let's take a look at this guy and move his vertices. Where should they go? So that they're flat on that edge. So looking here, if we take this guy and move him out, I think we're actually missing a brush on this side, which is why it looks like it's out in space. Because we actually need to take this guy and duplicate him across, but that'll only take a second. Now we could duplicate him one more time, this time in rotation, so that I can use him to fill in this last piece on the end. So, looking nice, let's build geometry again and see what our walls are looking like. Now if we move inside, we have a nice room, a nice corridor leading out to the room, and let's see. Looking at this really closely because I would like, if I can, to move that in, but I think that's looking pretty good. It's a little bit of an additional corridor to get out there. I mean, we could vertex edit everything and just slide it back in some. If we wanted less of a corridor, we could take all of these brushes, not in geometry mode, then switch to geometry mode, grab all of their vertices, and maybe drag them in, and give less of an open corridor. So I mean, that might give a more immediate look. And it looks like I missed one of the brushes. So let's select this guy and just drag him back. And rebuild geometry. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good. So let's see. If we jump over to lit mode, of course we don't see anything because there's no lights in there. So I could very temporarily add a quick light. I could hold L, grab a light. Let's switch to lit mode for a second. And drag him out to the center of the room. It looks like there was a light left over when we were building things. There must have been one moved out of the map. You don't really need that out in space, so I'll just out and out delete it. Let's grab this guy and jump into his properties. Maybe take, let's see, switch into lit mode. Let's take his brightness down for starters. So let's take it down to about 0.5 and maybe make it more of a grayish color for the light color. So let's scroll down here to light color and set it to kind of a grayish, maybe a nice dull dark grayish color, something like that. Maybe more yellowish. I'm trying to match the lights here a little bit. Probably could have just duplicated one of them. If we go up a little bit higher, a little bit more in that spectrum. Just something like that. I mean, I'm considering these temporary lights until we get these rooms finished off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it right there for all the lighting, and I'll worry about getting that accurate a little bit later. Alright, let's take this new little alcove, and let's duplicate it down to the other door. So I'll select all of the brushes and the light that make it up. We'll Alt drag to duplicate, and then we'll make sure we center up on the other door, which should be right about, depends on whether or not the light's the actual center, but grab one of these brushes and see if that's looking correct. I think so. Though we need to move it down somewhat, so let me jump over here to the side, get all of these brushes back, and move them down. I'm missing brushes on the side, it looks like. Okay, I think that's right. We move these, no, we're missing the floor. That's what we're missing. So let me actually jump, or the ceiling. Let me jump to brush wireframe for just a second, grab the ceiling. There we go. And drag all of these down to match the height of the floor on the bottom. So let's see, if we build now, I'll be missing, actually let me grab one of the subtractions before I build. We need that subtraction that punches through here. So let's switch back to brush wireframe for just a second so I can snag that brush, duplicate him over, center him up on the door here, and move him down in Z. to the new floor level, which is right about there. Alright, let's switch back into unlit mode for a second, rebuild geometry. Alright, that has this doorway cut through, but we have an interesting problem now, and that's the ceilings kind of overlap. We have the room from the top kind of mixing with the room from the bottom. And we should be able to fix that by just tweaking the tops and bottoms of the floors. If we jump out in a front view, we can see what's going on here. So what I want to do is take the brushes here and move all of the bottom vertices up just a little bit. So let's grab all of these brushes, and let's see. Maybe if I turn static meshes off, this will be a little bit easier. Let's grab all of the brushes in the center, which don't want to select. So let's see, top brushes. There we go. Just control select the top. Now let's jump into vertex editing mode, so we can drag all of these and go up 1, maybe 2 grid units. I'll leave them there for the time being. Let me jump in here so I can see the floor, which is right over here, and move that up now. Then take the ceiling on this side and move it down. Maybe even move it down too, about there. Then grab all of the brushes here that make up the floor, which don't want to select until I get a ton of brushes. Oh, that's interesting, they don't want to select at all. I grab everything. Oh yeah, being in geometry mode certainly doesn't help that. Right, so let's grab all of these, deselect the bottom, jump into geometry mode, grab all their vertices, and drop them down to about here so they meet the other brush. So let's jump back into unlit mode, rebuild geometry. Now I've probably lowered the ceiling just a little bit in this room, but that shouldn't be too noticeable except here, and I just noticed an interesting problem. We probably do need to move these all the way back, because we can see up above that. But while we're out here, we can grab all the brushes and slide all those in. And let's do that in camera mode. So let's slide all these back so that they meet the brush right up here. And let's build geometry. And that's looking good. Now on the bottom, we deselect everything we have, the ceiling, and none of the ceilings are overlapping. We don't even have any texture problems.
Cool.
And if we turn lighting back on, we could build lighting, but we're not looking for anything too impressive in there.
Right.
The ceiling on this side, you can kind of see the ceiling through the mesh though. Let me see. Let me try to even up the ceiling just a little bit. So we got this guy's bottom vertices. Let me go into brush mode here. Where does he need to go? Up to here. I'm just going to make this whole brush a little bit more thin. And I meant to do that in geometry mode, so let's select here. And that moves him up. Select all of the brushes below him. Jump into geometry mode. Select all the vertices. Move them up. Rebuild one last time. And jump in here into unlit mode, and there, now we have this top part not going through the ceiling, and we have a finished room. And there we go. So nothing we can see above either of these rooms, and all the rooms are completely sealed in. So I think that's what we need to get accomplished to have 2 rooms extend off the end of this level.
Okay, that sounds good. So with that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.